Hard Rock Lunchbox.
Greetings and salutations, and welcome to another episode of the Hard Rock Lunchbox. And of course, if you're watching on Strangerhood TV on YouTube, welcome to the top 20. It is September 11th, 2025. By all accounts, a beautiful day outside weather-wise, but of course, given recent events and our collective country's history, not the best day, not the best time to be alive, I would assume a lot of people are feeling, and I may or may not address that as the episode goes. I'm having a lot of reservations and a lot of tentative thoughts on the subjects swimming around my brain, but I would say we get started, as always, with some light housekeeping, but again, I don't have my light housekeeping, so I think we're just going to be done with that forever and just sort of take the episodes as they come. What I can tell you is there's a new episode of the Top 20 out, and I think it's the one where I'm talking about Florida and their medical decisions, and from a science perspective, how interesting that's going to be for me personally, and probably for anybody that studies infectious diseases, because they're setting themselves up to be a case study in what goes wrong without modern science. Now, that dovetails nicely into what's going on in the world this week, because what that represents in me is a sincere lack of humanity, which is kind of what we're seeing out in the world today. But it might dovetail, but it's not necessarily the same thing, and maybe we'll get into that, maybe we won't. I do have some other things I want to talk about. But I think I'm going to avoid the whole 9/11 thing. I think that is well represented out in the world. I don't know that I could add anything to it other than it's a good somber day of remembrance, and I hope people are really taking away from it the things they should take away from it, not necessarily the us versus them mentality that seems to be running rampant in today's world, because that lands us absolutely nowhere good. It never does. It never has. I've been talking about it for years, how problematic it is. The us versus them is ridiculous. Like, please save it for the football pitch, the football arena, any sports thing you want to do, any level of capture the flag that you have in your life. That's where that stuff belongs, not when it comes to our collective humanities. It's just stupid. It's intellectually void, and it's not really a sandbox I feel like playing in. I have no problem calling people out for their lack of intellect, and I will continue to do that, because if we are going to stick with an us versus them, we could at least stick with the better versus the worse, and I'm fine with doing that. But it's how you define those two things that I think becomes important. Nevertheless, it is time for another show. I do have some stuff to say. I want to start just on a kind of a note of gratitude about our show last Saturday night at Amityville Music Hall. I will say I was stressing it earlier in the month. Well, not early in the month, I guess more in August, and then certainly the week of, mainly because I wrestle with this thing often with the band, right? Because as I have gotten older and sort of steeped in my aversion existence, I suppose you could say, and my issues dealing socially, and my reticence for engaging in social media for lots of reasons, including I think it's just destructive for most people, but also because I am somebody with an opinion and somebody with an informed one. It becomes very frustrating for me to exist on social media, which is why you'll see me say here stuff about, like, okay, a lot of the clips from this show end up on Instagram, which is fine. I'm on Instagram and YouTube. A lot of my clips end up on TikTok, and I just don't go on TikTok anymore. I have no interest in that sort of influencer exhibition life. I don't. Like, for somebody that actually sings for a rock band, like, for money and professionally, like, my need to be the center of attention is incredibly small. Like, I just don't like it, and I don't like that other people really need it. I find it gross. I find it very devoid of any sort of humanity and stuff like that. So, like, which is why I always say, like, you can comment all you want on my TikTok stuff. I'm not going to read it. I've jumped on there a few times to answer some things, but, like, honestly, people aren't looking for answers on there. They're looking for gratification. They're looking for confirmation that they're right about something. And if anybody's ever arguing with me on TikTok about stuff, they're not right about it. That's just the way that it is. But anyway, getting back to what I was saying about the show, like, I was concerned because I go through these periods with the band and our public footprint, I guess, and it's just not what it used to be. Like, that's demonstrably and arguably true. Like, I've been in bands long enough, and I've been in this band long enough to watch the ebb and flow of our local fan base and stuff. And it's striking to me that as our global and regional and, you know, countryal, national, there we go. No need to make up a word there. There's actually a word that already exists. But, like, as the further away things of the band grow, and at times grow exponentially in terms of our popularity, our listenership, our fan base, our followers, and stuff like that, our local footprint definitely ebbs and flows, and we are in an ebb right now. Like, we really have been. We have a very small local footprint. We have a very small local draw. I'm not always sure what those reasons are. I know there's a bunch of fans that my band has lost because of my social, political, and economic opinions. And to be perfectly honest, like, on the social stuff, like, I'm fine with that. Like, if you're just a douche and a horrible human being, like, I don't really want you there. Like, I don't need you to be a part of what it is we're trying to create. Like, I'm not just here to perform, to make a buck and stuff like that. Like, I feel like I've passed that. I've made a very real turn in my professional career to be less focused on making it, right? Like, and be great. Like, I would love to be able to do that for a living, and I think that I am qualified to do that for a living. I just don't see it as a path forward that's viable economically or, you know, personally or whatever. I think that time has kind of come and gone. And as much as it pains me to admit that, I think it's a fair thing that most people in music need to ask themselves at some point. And it's not really an age thing. It's really just, where are you at with it? Like, what are you willing to put in? What is the return you're looking for on that investment? Not to get all, you know, economical, but, like, the return on your investment in anything in life is always a valuable argument. And for me, the return of that investment really is, who am I reaching? Who am I able to connect with through this platform, through music and all that other stuff? And that seems to be more important. Like, I think I would rather really connect with 12 people than not connect with 1,000. Like, now that could change if it gets to 1 million. I have no idea, because I've never had that, right? I've never had the ability to connect with 1 million people, so I don't know. But I know on the inside, it's way more important for me to really connect with people than, like, a small number of people, than to not really connect with a bunch of other people. And I think I learned that lesson kind of around the COVID political storm of the late 20-teens and the early 2020s, where I was just surprised at, like, how different I was than a lot of the people that I considered to be in our little sandbox here. And I got real selective about that real quick, because these were people that were doing destructive things to other people in the sandbox, to me in the sandbox, and, like, just causing kind of problems at shows. It would put me on edge, right? Like, there was no real reason to be on edge about that sort of thing, about performing. It's like one of my favorite things in the world to do. I always talk about how it's like my favorite 40 minutes, and that's still true. Like, I really do love it. Like, I feel something. Like, I feel like there is some astropherical light on me when I'm performing. And I think that's for me justification enough to do these things. But all of that aside, I was definitely concerned heading into the show because, as I was saying last week, like, we had basically no tickets sold. I mean, we had a handful for sure, but, like, for a typical Revel 9 show, like, we can usually draw 20 people at pretty much any given event. I used to say we could draw 5 people in any city around the country. I don't know if that's true anymore because we just don't tour as much as we used to. But I always felt comfortable locally that we could just pull people in. And up until very close to the show, it just didn't look like that was going to happen. Now, sometimes that just sort of happens organically, right? People are away. It's the summer. It's the end of the summer. People have other things to do. Like, we have been completely blindsided by, like, graduation parties before, holiday parties, where it's just, like, our entire audience is going to a wedding, right? Like, we've definitely hit things like that. So it's not unusual, but it was kind of weird this time out. And it was enough to strike a chord in me that, and yes, this seems nihilistic, but, like, is this over? Like, should we just stop playing locally because people aren't interested in coming to see us anymore? I know, like, yes, on this side of the show, it seems silly that I would think that, but I assure you, as an artist and a performer, and somebody that does this, like, for real, it's a consideration. Like, it's absolutely a consideration to have, and a consideration that needs to be dealt with. So I was definitely concerned about it, but I am happy to announce that for whatever reason, dozens of people came to see us at Amityville Music Hall on Saturday, and what makes that even more special is because by most accounts of people in the room, it might have been the greatest Revel 9 set that we have done in ages or ever. And that's awesome. Like, if that's the takeaway, because I will tell you, my takeaway was definitely different, but mine is always biased based on how the band performs and things that go wrong on stage and stuff like it's not like I keep a mental checklist. Like, I don't do that. Like, I'm not like this, but there becomes a point on stage where it's like enough stuff has gone wrong, or it's just like, what is happening? Right? So I walked off stage with my own sort of takeaway, but I was noticing while on stage that the audience was very digging stuff that we were doing. And there was actually one moment, and I can't remember what song it was after. I feel like it might have been after End Assault, which is one of our singles from earlier in the year, where the audience was dead silent. And on stage, as a performer, dead silence is not good. Generally, for me, I was considering it not good. And I even said something about it on stage because I always joke about, like, my social anxiety, and there are few things on earth that are more disturbing for somebody like me than absolute silence. I talk about it all the time. I have friends that feel the same way. It's very difficult to have a conversation where there's silence. I talked about it when I was in Cincinnati, like, all these people from different places, like, just getting together and hanging out, there's a lot of dead silences, and my social anxiety just ramps up so much that I'll just start talking about anything because I will do whatever it takes to keep that silence from forming. Right? The only time that I really let that go is if I am so, like, taken aback, or I am so just sort of feeling the pressure or feeling badly from things that are going on that I simply cannot speak. It doesn't happen often, but it does happen. And there are situations that can move me to a place where I just can't speak. It's not that I don't want to. It's not that I'm enjoying the silence. I just don't have it in me to speak, right? So, but there was this moment on stage where it was just so quiet after a song. And like I said something about it, and I just carried on. And, it really didn't. There were moments where it was quiet, like it was taking too long to get into another song, which Revel 9 tends to not do anyway. We are usually a very well-rehearsed machine, so we're able to get in and out of songs pretty quickly. But on reflection, kind of like on the drive home, I think, I was considering that silence because it's the kind of thing that sticks with somebody that's insecure and has social anxiety and stuff like that. So, of course, it's just running a full gerbil circle in my head the whole time. And I realized that at a show like that, now, like I said, dozens of people came to see us. There were still dozens of other people in the room that weren't there to see us, and maybe they were, just hanging out with their friends. 4 other bands played, so there was definitely a lot of people in the room for sure, plus the other bands. I mean, we're definitely talking north of 100, maybe north of 200 people in the room. And what I realized is that for for there to be that level of silence, there needs to be one of two things happen. Either everybody in the room has decided that they have nothing to say, they have no conversation to be having, or what they were doing was paying attention to what we were doing. And so there were no other conversations. There weren't other events going on in the room. Nobody else was holding court. That we had captured so much attention that people were focused on what we were doing. And so focused on what we were doing that they weren't focused on anything else. Now, am I sure that other people were having conversations in the room? Of course. I can't imagine that we did something so incredible that we just broke the mind of, 100, 200 people. Like, that just doesn't seem realistic. But I have played at shows where people are talking so loudly that I can actually hear them over my band. And I sure as hell can hear them over the breaks. Because I'm the only one talking at that point, and I am not super loud. Yeah, I'm amplified through a PA, but I can still hear people talking. And there was, like I said, there was this moment where I simply could not hear people. And for me, that sort of realization of we just did something so engaging or entertaining or focus worthy that we just got all of those things. We got everybody's focus for a moment. And I think that that's just absolutely incredible to have those kinds of moments. And I am super proud to have done that. Yeah, I'm taking a leap of faith assuming that's what happened. I mean, maybe it didn't. Maybe I'm just reading this all wrong. But I am not necessarily... No, let me take that back. I am hardly ever a glass half full kind of guy. Like my buddy Jimmy, he is glass half full for days. He's glass half full, but he's also got 3 other glasses that he's ready to go with. And they're all more than half full. And I love that about him. I truly do. There's lots of people in my life that are like that. And I'm not. And I try to be, but I'm not. But when I'm telling you that I feel like something like that happened, that means I have had to overcome that half full or half empty sort of mentality to get to something that was really good. So my point is that everything just sort of came together and kind of worked out. And I am super grateful that it did, because I was having all these concerns before, and I'm sure I'm going to have them all again. And it's just kind of the way that I operate in the world. But every now and then to have those kinds of moments just kind of makes it all worthwhile for me. And I wanted to offer up a very heartfelt thank you to everybody that did come down, and everybody that was part of that, and everybody that gave us their attention for a moment or two, and everybody that, I don't know, just existed in that moment. Because it would not have been the same if you weren't there. It would not have been possible if you weren't there. And if indeed we did the best Revel 9 set that anybody has ever seen, the most important part of that is the everyone in that sentence. Because if it weren't for everyone else, there wouldn't have been an everyone to be part of that. So I meant all week to write basically what I'm just saying now, on social media, and post it, and I might still. But I am just so averse to social media interactions these days that I couldn't even bring myself to just post a very simple thank you. So I'm doing it here on the platform where I feel obliged to be on. So it seems fitting that I would just sort of say those sort of things here. So thank you for all of that. I did mean to come here and talk a little bit about, again, the humanity in the world, but maybe I'll just save that for another time. I definitely wanted to talk about what's going on in the courts, the federal and the Supreme Court of our country, because there is a row, to borrow something from the British, that is going on that I think everybody needs to pay attention to. But I don't feel like that's going away anytime soon, so I believe I'll have time to talk about it in the future. So I will save that for next week, because I think it's important, and I think people need to know about it. But for right now, I'll just leave it with my gratitude, my incredibly rare glass half full moment, and a thank you to all the Rebel 9 fans around the world, around the country, around the region, and locally, but this one specifically to everybody I saw on Saturday night. Thank you very much for that. And, yeah, man, let's get on to some local music so we can start making the world feel like a little bit of a better place. The band I got for you today is called Gursday. I'm drawing a blank on the lead singer's name, but I used to play Best of Me from him all the time. But he is in a band now called Gursday, and I grabbed this song, and I kind of really dug it. I like when I stumble across new local bands because it's awesome to stumble across new local bands because they are our little collective, little niche of something awesome out in the world. So I'm happy to be part of that. I'm happy to play this for you now on the box.